All right. Open Discord up. Move that off to the side here. And there we go. So I was working on this Foodog here, and I'm just gonna keep building up on it, and keep kind of working on what I'm building here. And so, a lot of what I've got going on is the toes, and I've been working on the face, and the mouth is separate here. So a lot of that is all separated. And I'm not, getting too detailed with this, but I want to get to the point where it's definitely kind of a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to go into my process here. I'm just going to move, I'm going to close this and move this over here. So I can kind of look both different directions here. And we'll go back to Twitch here. All right. So let's see here. So the next thing is, I need to start kind of building up this process. And so when you look at like this type of thing here, the first thing I'm going to do is go modeling here, and I'm going to go into my edge here, and we're going to go into Swift Loop, and we're going to add one of the Swift loops in there, and that's one. And then by doing that, that gives me kind of the process of how I'm building up kind of this. And so I'm just going to start grabbing some of these points and start moving them out. I want to get a nice edge loop going on in there, so I'm going to have to play with that and get a little bit more geometry. Kind of the process of building up here. Let's see if we can do another Swift loop here. And we put one there, and then we go and cut. And I see what goes up here. Okay, so a lot of these here, I'm just going to start grabbing and pulling out some of these a little bit more to kind of get the idea of things smoothing out. You don't want to get stuck with a ton of these different processes here. So I'm just kind of going through and kind of building up here. And my goal is to grab, let's go into polygons here. So my goal is to kind of grab these faces, and I'm going to delete those, and that's going to create a hole in there. And then what I'm going to do is start building up kind of this idea here. So I'm going to take this vertex here and move it up, trying to get a little bit more of a loop going on, round some of this out, move some of this up here, and it's just a little bit matter of forming like so. So we're doing like so, we're doing this like so, like that, and starting to build like this. Okay, and then with this in place, what I'm going to do is probably add another edge loop in here, round things out a little bit more. But I'm going to see if I can actually, we're going to cut some more edge loops in here. But I'm going to cut it a little bit differently. So I'm going to cut it like this, and that way I don't force more geometry up into that process. And so I'm just kind of rounding out this like so, and doing that, I'm just going to kind of connect from here to here, from here to here, And so with all that in place, then what I can do is I think I'm going to do is one more cut. And the reason I'm doing this is very simple. It's actually because I can end the geometry here if I need to. And so what I'm going to do now is go into attach, and I'm going to attach that. And so by attaching that, you can see that there's already, this already geometry kind of working together. And then what we're going to do is go into the vertices here and just start collapsing. I'm just going to make sure that I'm doing 2 at a time. So, oh, that looks a little bit wrong. Oh, I see what's going on. So I'm just going to have to move this out a little bit more, and these two come in. So as you can see, as I'm starting to stitch some of this stuff together, I'm getting like so. And so looking at my other version here, this is all kind of taken care of. And now I just need to kind of start attaching things together. And so to do that, some of this stuff is just going to, we're going to move it, accordingly to kind of build it up. But what we can do is start grabbing some of this loop here and kind of working on building kind of a process to kind of edge things out. I don't want to get in a ton of geometry there, but I can easily go in and start manipulating some of this geometry to kind of be a little bit more well-rounded, smoothing it out. Some of this stuff I can move down a little bit. And that's the thing about a sculpture like this. You don't have to have everything, you don't have to have everything there. So, see, 3 guys, 3 people, ladies, gentlemen, signed in here. So, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to hit me up. I'm going to answer these questions while I do this, so it's not that big a deal. And let me just move some things around here. I'm trying to see everything at once here, and that's never really works. So anyway, so you can see here that I'm just kind of building this together, and what I'm going to do slowly is kind of start arranging it. So like here and here, if I collapse that, I've got now kind of I'm bringing this piece up here, and so that saves a little bit of time, a little bit of effort here. And if I start kind of building up, like so now that edge works here, and if I grab this edge here and collapse that, we can kind of start building that down and kind of flowing it in the right areas. And so as long as the geometry looks good, we're good to go. And then my main concern here is connecting all these points, and that's actually not that hard, because what we're going to do is I'm going to grab actually, let's see here. I'm going to grab that one, this, and I'm going to be subtracting all of that. I think that's about 4. That looks good. And I'm going to subtract all of this here. And so what I'm going to do is simply grab this and kind of push it back. And with that in mind, then what I can start doing is grabbing a couple of these and collapsing them. So I'm going to grab these 2 in the middle, collapse them. These 2 in the middle, collapse them. These 2 in the middle, collapse them. Like so. And then I'm going to go through and grab all of these and control backspace them out. So what I've done now is looking at this, I've basically created edge loops And they look prettier over here, but I've essentially created edge loops to kind of create that kind of flow going on over there. And so the same thing can be done with this edge loop here. I think let's take off that there, and I'm going to just kind of extrude that out a little bit. And I'm going to grab that center piece and collapse that down. Actually, let's undo that. I think we're going to keep that for now. And then I'm going to add an edge loop in here. That's just going to give me a little bit more geometry to work with. And we're going to start by collapsing that piece in. That looks good. And let's collapse this in here. And actually, we'll grab these two pieces here and collapse those, and then grab this one and control backspace. So that gives me, again, a little bit less to kind of work with. And then let's go in and just grab these 4 here, or up there, and I'm going to move that forward, like so. And then I'm going to just grab these 2 and collapse those, grab these 2 and collapse that, these 2 and collapse that, and then I can just go through. And again, it's kind of a weird looking geometry, especially when you look at it NURM'd up, but it's actually working. It's spreading its information, and I'm removing less of it. So here now, if you look at this and this, I can probably go collapsing these two, and those 2. So, you know, all I have left to deal with is this piece right here, and it's actually set to go. So I'm going to just go to edge mode here, and there's my little shadow there. So yeah. So she wants attention. She wants her butt rubbed. And so with that in place, I've got kind of this, you know, I've got this looking good, and then let's grab this, go to edge here, and let's go and move that out like so. And I'm just debating how I want to do this. So I don't have as many pieces over here. So let's do this once. So I've got these 2 here. Let's collapse those together. What if we grab these 2 and collapse that together? And then if we grab this one and collapse that together, let's move it up a little bit. And seeing how that looks from the inside, I'm okay there. And I somehow got a little bit screwed up. So, and that's the thing about, you know, if you screw up, you just gotta sit down and look at things and see how to fix them. And so me simply going into the edge mode here, grabbing this one and control backspacing that kind of cleans that up. And then we can grab I've got a triangle in there that just, I'm looking at the logic behind everything, and oh, I see what's going on. Okay, so what I've got here is I've got a triangle here. So the simple way to do this is we take this piece here, cut it like so, and then that piece there, control backspace. So that basically cleans up that. And then what I did was I ran the geometry into these corners here. So what I'm going to do is grab this piece here. Let's collapse that, and let's just go into the edge mode here and bridge from here to here. Oops. Let's do that again. And that's going to close that, but I have one triangle stuck in there, and I'm not too worried about it right now because, you know, the main concern I have is building up this kind of idea of, you know, like adding in more geometry, rounding things out, and that's kind of what I'm looking at. And so one of the things that I'm doing is I'm going to just go through here and grab some of these and just kind of start rounding out a little bit. Kind of building out. I'm going to just go here, build this back in, and then grab some of these and start pulling them out a little bit so it gives them that muscular forearm. Alright, and so something along the lines like that. And then if I want, you know, this is still a lot of geometry in here, I can slowly kind of collapse some of the geometry. So, you know, like this edge here and this edge here I can collapse, and then I can remove these two pieces like so, and that's less geometry to deal with. And I can go in and kind of play in and kind of, you know, like adding in little bits and pieces. And because it's normed on the other side, you know, I'm getting a good sense of how this looks as a smoothed out kind of mesh. And so, which is good to some extent. And then I'm going to go like add a swift loop in here. I'm going to add one low and I'm going to add one high. And it doesn't seem like much, but if we pull that out, that's that you start getting that bicep that most of these critters have. You know, when you look at the like actual sculpture. So I'm actually looking at this over here to see how this side is defined. All right, and I can slowly start pulling away some of this stuff. But my next process here is to start adding in a little bit more geometry in the back here to give me that idea of this kind of process. So I'm going to just grab this, click here, hit delete, and I'm going to go in the edge here, grab this, and start kind of widening some of this out. So here we go. So I'm just kind of widen the haunches and then kind of narrow this. So maybe even pull this out a little bit here. And we'll grab that like so. Maybe even grab this and kind of pull it over. And so again, I have to do the same thing. I have to cut the geometry so that it lines up and kind of works with the development of how I'm kind of building all this stuff. And so just looking at different kind of pictures on how they're doing this, and you know, so that looks good. I'm okay with this, you know, and there's little things that I can kind of do to kind of tweak and play. So next thing is adding in the geometry for this, and so that's actually pretty simple. We're going to go into Swift Loop here. We're going to add in one Swift Loop, and I'm going to add in two here. So that is good, like so. And then I'm going to cut my extra geometry in there. So I'm going to cut from here to here and over, and you can see so. And all right, so with that cut together, I can get rid of these two triangles, like so. And so now I've got a connection point for the top here. And of course, I need to go into the geometry and start pulling that geometry down like so. Maybe even pull some of this down like this. Kind of pull some of that. And then we got to get the sides down too. So the sides are going to go back. And again, I'm not too worried about everything. I'm just kind of starting to try and piece things together here. Pull that off a little bit to the side here. And then, so once that looks decent, I want to do something similar to the same thing on the bottom here. And so I'm going to cut the geometry. Sorry, my cat was scratching something and I'm just seeing what she was into. Last time she was scratching something, it was my comic books. Okay, so basically here to here to here to here. We're just going to add these pieces in here like so. And the reason I'm just doing that is because it's so much simpler to kind of do this while I'm thinking about it. Oops, undo. Grab something, collapsed it there, I didn't need to. So, okay, so now this is, I should have a lot of geometry there. And so what I'm going to do is start by attaching, so scroll up here, hit attach, right click, scroll down. Again, I like seeing the number of edges, the number of vertices, all the little bits and pieces, kind of what I'm grabbing. And it's just something, I don't know, like I got in the habit of doing that because I would grab, like, I'd select through something and it'd be like, oh look, I just selected the bottom half of the butt and moved it all the way to the face. And so that's why I'm kind of doing this now. And I think that's selected. So that's good. And then what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these here and just start. Now I could bridge, but that just adds more geometry that I don't want to deal with. Something's not right here. What did I just do? I don't think I have enough geometry. What's going on here? So that's 2. That's 4. Oh, okay. So one of the things that I did, and this is my screw up. So what I did was I accidentally said, oh, hey, I'm going to NURMS this, and then I collapsed toggle poly. And by doing that, that actually adds more geometry. So I'm going to get rid of that extra loop in there. And by doing this, this is all kind of cleaning up together here. Alright, so this is good here, and I just need to kind of collapse some of this together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab these two and collapse them on the side like so, especially since this is kind of back. Collapse that on the side, and then let's see if we can add an edge loop in. Oh, that doesn't like my edge loop. So let's go do an add a cut here. So we're just going to cut. Let's come here. And I'm going to cut. All right. So I'm going to cut this, and what I'm going to just do is bring that over like so, and that gives me a little bit more geometry in the butt. And then I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to cut this all the way over here, like that. Let me go back to these, grab those, collapse that. And so again, I'm looking at the higher poly stuff over here than the lower poly stuff over here, from a standpoint of like edge loops and things like that. And so there's some of this stuff like here, I'm going to go here and control backspace this one. And that actually cleans up kind of the geom. Now look here, this is kind of awkward, but I can play around with it. So I'm going to go over here, and so if you see, if I control backspace there, the geometry really doesn't change that much. You know, I'm still maintaining that kind of piece. So from there, I'm just kind of moving some of this stuff a little bit out. And the reason I'm moving it out is because it's averaging out the geometry. And so that way I'm not like having to fight with like a whole bunch of geometry shoved into one little location. And so we're just kind of building up. There we go. I think that looks good. So that geometry is good, but now I've got to clean up and kind of build up some of the processes of the stuff that I'm doing here. And so with that, it's just basically a matter of moving things around. Sorry, I had to take a drink. All right. So let's see here. So this is kind of screwed up geometry here. You can see that it's going to screw things up accordingly. Like over here, it's just going to stretch things, and it's going to create a really sharp point. We don't want that eventually, but a lot of that is actually just going through and kind of playing with the geometry that you do have. I mean, you know, that's one of the things that I think new students don't realize is that you can add as much geometry as you want. You really can. I mean, there is no ultimate limit on kind of how much geometry you ultimately put into your kind of figure or whatever you're building. I mean, you can go as much as you want, but after a while, the computer starts, you know, getting taxed on it. You know, everything just kind of like compiles together, and so you can see here that, you know, I've got a ton of geometry kind of in those lines, but ultimately I really don't need that much in there. So I'm trying to ultimately just trying to move some of it to kind of flesh out what is already there. I mean, like I can grab this here, and let's actually grab those three here, and if we just move that up, that rounds out and starts defining the form. And so I know a lot of this, like if I can pull this out and we can kind of move that in. And so I'm looking at a couple of things. I'm looking at the vertices. So like my thought process is if you have a line, if you have a vertice between it, the issue is you're wasting your information. So you can see here that I've put in a lot of this information here, and I can slowly kind of like flatten it. So anything that's straight, like this and this is a corner, but like if I look at it from here to here, these three right there are a corner, and if I just move like so and move that up, it rounds out everything that much more. And I mean, it's not like, you know, you have to realize that a Foodog, like these Chinese Foodogs and stuff, are kind of, you know, kind of weird and funky looking. I mean, they're not like anatomically correct, so I'm not too worried about, you know, getting things in there properly. And in fact, what I'm looking at now is I'm looking at how to like avoid. So I've got, you know, okay, so if I've got here, I was looking at collapsing these two, and by doing that, I now can get rid of, you know, that center geometry. I don't want to, and the reason I don't want to is because I think if we just collapse this one here and this one here, and we can then grab these two, and I can go back to being, you know, somewhat normal now. And so if I grab these two, collapse that, collapse that, collapse that, and we move up over, and you can see I'm looping it around to kind of go with less geometry, and that's ultimately what I'm trying to accomplish here is trying to figure out how to you know, change the edge flow so that it's got less geometry. And I think I'm going to do it this way. So I think we're just going to, if we collapse that in there, that's quads there, this is quads there, and I'm just done. I've got my loop going on, and so I'm just trying to kind of form out now this figure. And I think what I'm looking at, so you know, if you look at a lot of these animals, the front legs and the back legs kind of build into one each other. So what I think I'm going to do is I think instead of this, so I've got this panel here and this panel here, and if I delete that, I've got kind of this process here. So there's kind of an edge loop that's actually cut, and so if I go here and cut that all the way around, and I think that's through, oops, through to the next one, and you can see how like changing a triangle to a loop, you know, changes that geometry. And so doing that is a huge thing. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this one, and we're going to collapse that. And then I think if I just add in an edge loop here, that we can kind of add these two together, and there we go. So that's the start of, I think, the Foodog. And again, you know, looking at, like, you know, I've got this screen open over here, and I think the big thing is grabbing all of this. So I'm just going to grab all of this here and start moving it inward. It doesn't need to be. And I'm going to just grab some of this and kind of move it inward a little bit. And we go through. Oops. And we start just kind of moving slowly, kind of inward here. Grab this, and pull this out, and kind of even it out here. And so you can see that I'm just slowly kind of building up, you know, that process. And I think that line work here is good. And if I want, I can go to my edge loop here and grab that, and then grab this, and grab this and this. And so check this out. So here's this crease modifier. And if I crease that even at a little percentage, you'll get a nice hard surface like that, or hard edge. And I don't necessarily need that because it's not necessarily the best thing, but it's simply manipulating the geometry where I don't have to add in all this other stuff. And so there we go. And you know, so adding in little bits of geometry like that are kind of easy manipulations to kind of play around and move things around. Now, I'm not liking this here because of some of the geometry. So what I can do is I can simply move forward and back like that, and by doing that, even think about grabbing this piece here and kind of pushing it back and pushing it down. I want an edge loop around here, and I kind of got that. So I'm going to grab this, and maybe I'll even grab these and kind of pull them forward. So it's just about forming out and kind of getting the process of how things look. And up here, so I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to pull that down a little bit, and I'm going to grab these. And again, if you need to spread things out, don't use the scale tool. Scale tool is amazing for taking verts and kind of pushing it, and you can even rotate it and kind of clean up. You can see some of this stuff just needs to be moved around and shifted, and that's unfortunately what a lot of push-pull verts is on when you're doing 3D stuff like this. And with ZBrush, it makes a huge difference. But I'm doing this for the new users so that I don't want to like do a ton of different softwares. Otherwise, I would easily do this in ZBrush. But I think this is a good base for a lot of people to kind of understand how things work. And so we can move like that. We can move that around. And so, I think that looks good. My edge flow. And I'm going to just grab this, and we're going to chamfer that, and I'm going to split that, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that down like so. Now I could have extruded everything, blah blah blah, but let's scale this just a little bit more. But I didn't want to, I just want to my process here. So I don't know, let's see here. Let's move this one and this one up a little bit. Let's move this up a little bit. Oops. Get kind of things flowing, so I've got that loop. And then what I can do is I can go in my loop here, and I can crease this edge here, which looks good, and then I can grab that edge and crease that too. So you can see here, I easily added in an edge loop here. And what I think I'm going to do is looking at some of these from the side here, and that's the other thing. I'm working from reference that has multiple, like how do I want to call it? It's multiple pieces, if you will. Like I'm not using one reference. I'm just kind of how do I want to say this? I'm picking and choosing from the parts I like. So like that. And I'm just making sure that that looks good. And then I'm going to go into Swift Loop up here. Let me add another loop. Go here. Let's chamfer that. Oops, no, undo. There we go. Chamfer that. And then let's go in the edge loop here. And actually, I think I can just kind of bring that down a little bit. Maybe scale it inward just a hair. Maybe let's see if we can just move it in just a hair a little bit too, and then move. And so now I've got kind of that edge loop going on, and then I can crease So again, see what happens when I crease. How do you get a mirror? Oh, I'm sorry. Your Earth is home, as asking me how I get the a mirror like that. So sorry about that. The mirror is actually done in an earlier thing. I can show you real quick here. So the way it works is you take an object, like so. So we take a box here, and you divide that box into two different segments lengthwise, like so, right in the middle. And then what you do is you turn it into an edit poly, and you go in and pretty much delete half of it. So you go into the 4, hit delete, and you do like so. Okay, so now you've got the inside of the box like that. And then what you're going to do is you are going to go up here and you're going to mirror it. And we're going to do a reference. And the way the instance works, the way is equal. One side does one thing, the other side does the other thing. So, but a reference, whatever happens on one side can stay on one side. So by grabbing this reference here, I can go into Turbo Smooth, Mesh Smooth, whatever you want to add, and round out one side. And then I can go into the other side here and go into the polygons, and I can inset. And so you can basically hard surface model one side. And so that's essentially how to do it. I hope that helps you. That's the way I learned how to model like organics and things like that. I started out in Max 2.0. So a lot of this was, learning to, let me grab, empty shell is there, so delete the empty shell. So anyway, going back here, and then let's grab this, go to edge, grab this, let's crease that weight here. And so again, we've got this nice kind of smooth, and and it is about, tweaking and adding in like I want to kind of bring these up here a little bit. They look kind of sad. I don't know, I just don't like the way they're bending here. I don't know, I think something's wrong with my mouse lately. I think that's like it's stuttering. I don't know. So, but yeah, so then that way you're modeling on one, and so you can too. The other thing too is you can see where things are working and things are not working. So here, like this, and I'm gonna hopefully don't select anything in the back. So here, like I'm gonna move this over a little bit, and same thing over here. I'm gonna move that over a little bit, and I can kind of make this edge flow work a little bit better for my purposes here. And we're going to bring this down a little bit. And so you can see where, like, if I look around here, like, I can see where things are really flat. And so, sometimes, like here, you can see that this is really flat. And so if I just simply kind of, let's actually grab some of this here and pull it forward like so. And I think that looks a little better. And so, but again, I can see where it's flat, so I might want to try to like either figure out how to move it, like so I can just slowly kind of round it out a little bit, or if I can figure out, delete the edge. Like this edge goes all the way up into here, which is great and all, but it's it needs to kind of be there. And so a big thing that I'm noticing with the like design, and so a lot of this design I can actually kind of build out and kind of flow. So again, I'm looking at this here. like this looks awkward to me, so I need to round that out or figure out how to kind of figure out how to like kind of organize it so that it's not like so yucky. And actually, I think I figured out a way to do that. So the easy way to do things is kind of to collapse some of this geometry together. And so you can see here that if I collapse this piece of geometry here like so, so if we grab that one, collapse that one like so, we grab this, and we delete that, it turns a curve, it starts changing my surface curve over. So if I grab these two, collapse these two, collapse those, and so simply doing that kind of adds in a little bit. And then what I can do is I can cut from here to here, like so. So now that I've cut that in there like so, I still have that triangle right here, but if I collapse that, collapse that, and collapse that, and so now you can see I've got an edge loop that goes around and an edge loop that goes like so. And so that is, now this is getting really straight here, and so if I grab this and start pulling some of it back, it's starting to round out that form. And so I think the big thing is grabbing some of these pieces here and giving it the little belly that it, ooh, wrong direction, giving it the belly that it kind of needs here. And that's kind of just the process. And just, I mean, if I can get away with deleting some of these faces that aren't doing anything, you know, by all means. Looks like I'm gonna have to add an edge loop. I you know, and that's, the edge loop is all about forming, you know, like kind of your process here. And I want kind of, so I've got this here, and I want to add that up there because I want this kind of feel barrel chested. So it's what I'm trying to round out now to accomplish here. And I'm just trying to figure out, there we go, like so. And then there's a lot of geometry in here. So one of the things I can do is I can add an edge loop on here. And that actually is nice because I can use that edge loop to kind of pull out and add, let's tighten that up. And I'm going to grab that. And so you can see here now, I'm starting to add that kind of ring. So let's grab this, and bulk that up, pull that, like more barrel chested like that. And so let's pull some of this back here. And let's pull some of this back, maybe up a little bit, so on and so forth. So as I said, it's all about getting that shape down. Because here you can see this is all just really kind of roughly rounded. And if we just grab one little piece or one little edge and kind of round that out, it changes that form so much. And let's see here. So this is, let's grab this, pull this outward like so. Like that. And then I'm going to grab this, grab that. And so again, just kind of forming out that process. And so, you know, I'm okay with keeping this low poly, just kind of getting things down there. And so with that in mind, there is, you know, kind of the process of some of these things. So I'm going to add in this, yeah, I think that's what I would do. So, okay, and I don't know if I probably said this before, but this is a little trick. So instead of making a box, or instead of making a sphere, you can take a box, and with the box, you can add the turbo smooth on there. So we turn this into an editable poly. And then if you do the NURMS version of this, so essentially, if you do a NURMS version of this, it's going to round it out, right? And so what we're going to do is I'm going to go in the vertice here. We're going to round this box out a little bit. Got to make it square. I could have done that by the numbers. In fact, let's add a edge loop in here, and I'll do the same thing so we can kind of see what's going on here. I'm going to grab this, hit delete, and then go off, hit mirror with a reference. Yeah. And so now I've got yay, like so. And I'm going to go here, and we're just going to add that turbo smooth there. So that's going to round things out, right? And what I'm going to do here is let's just go into the edge mode, grab this, kind of pull that back, make sure that's kind of rounded out. And I'm going to add in a chunk. Actually, I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to do tessellate. Let's see here. Shift all. Let's try tessellate again. So what tessellate does is rounds things out like so. And I'm just going to kind of start shifting this. And I'm trying to make the bell here, is what I'm doing. So move that like so, move that like so, grab these, move that up so like that, grab this, actually grab this and kind of round out. And I could have saved myself some time if I would have just NURM'd it and smoothed it, but you know, just kind of, sometimes you're not thinking about things and just kind of do things. So anyway, so there's my half sphere, right? I could probably even kind of pull some of that in here like that a little bit, and oh yeah, we're going to grab this actually ring here. And I don't need to be super perfect, but you get the point. So that rounds that out. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this edge loop here, and we are going to chamfer like so, and then we're going to go in the and ring like so. Let's extrude. And kind of scale so that we've got this kind of edge loop going here. And I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to delete this like so. We're going to go into edge loops here, and we're going to crease the edges like that. Grab that and kind of move like so. Grab that and move like so. So now we've got kind of this bell that I see on most of these kind of critters here, and they're all kind of like I see them joined different ways. So what I'm going to do is just kind of clean up some of these pieces here, just kind of round things out a little bit. But they're all kind of joined on top of this. So I'm going to just grab these two, move them like so. And I'm not going to attach it yet because I'm going to make sure, I'm going to basically make sure the way they attach it. Because looking at them, you know, what they do is they actually have like a piece here, and they can actually, it looks like kind of a separate entity. So it's kind of almost like a head. So they pull this up here like so, and grab this, and then they extrude this out like this, and kind of grab the edges here and kind of, and we're just going to kind of grab some of that like so. Grab the middle here, delete. And so they do something along the lines like this. And I've got to shape it out a little bit more here. So I'm going to move around here like so, and so on and so forth. So, and then they'll attach this ball. Now, instead of like trying to attach the ball here, or well, I'm going to attach the ball anyway, but I think what I'm going to do is I've got my kind of piece here, and so what I think I'm going to do is just actually delete a face on the ball. So I'm going to hit attach here, grab this, so now it's one piece, go here, go under like so, hit delete there, and that's going to create a hole. And then I'm going to have to, oh, come on here, go up and create, I think that's the one I need right there. So I'm going to delete that. And so from here, I'm just going to hit delete or collapse. So I'm going to collapse these kind of chunks here. Let me look at this. Okay, I think I grabbed the wrong. Okay, so grabbing this is 2, and this is why I like my 2 vertices there. So I'm going to collapse that, grab these 2, collapse those, grab these 2, collapse those, and the only thing I have left is this here. And so that kind of creates a little, then we can delete that because we're not using it. So that creates kind of my kind of information, and like so, and then I can start monkeying with, you know, like move this up a little bit, and I can build out, kind of push some of this back, and so I'll play with that, and then what I can do is grab this edge loop here, so like that, and of course that one measly thing that's, let's see if I can grab that. Nope. There we go. And so by grabbing that, let's scroll down here, and we're going to crease that like so. So that separates now the ball from everything else. All right, and so that creates that, and I think that's a good kind of start, good kind of place to end it out here. So if you guys have any questions, next week I'll go through and I'll attach this, the head. I got to build up the head here, and that's going to be a whole little process that I'm going to have to play with. But I've got the body done, and I've got the face and the jaws done, and you just need to kind of put it all together. All right, so thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to give me a holler. All right, talk to you later.